Hey guys, as promised, I wanted to make a video this week. It's a little late. It's not Christmas anymore, but we're still in the Christmas season where we're talking about and appreciating the birth of Jesus. And I was inspired by Sarah Bessey's book, Jesus Feminist, about a woman's perspective on the Christmas story. And it really made me think, I really don't think I've had a woman tell the Christmas story, at least in my experience. And I have definitely heard the Christmas story a million times, just like everyone else out there. And I've heard men even try to incorporate some of the complexities of birth and everything, but without a woman really sharing it, it kind of fell a little flat. So the first thing that came to my mind when I thought about doing this video is, I have not met a woman alive that would not share her birth story with you. People you meet right away, maybe I'm an oversharer, maybe the people I hang out with are oversharers as well. But one of the first things that I find in common and talk to women about are their birth stories. We usually go through, hey, the firstborn, this happened on this one, and oh, the second was awful, and the third, just wait till you get to the fourth or whatnot. And I have two very completely different birth stories. When I was pregnant with Jalen, I met a woman. She was a client of mine that came into my office, and I was talking about my birth plan. As a first-time mom, never been a mom before, I had all these high hopes of what his birth would look like. And she laughed at me, as many seasoned moms do. I know I have. And she told me her birth story of her son. And the way that she explained it, I was like, oh, that sounds horrible. I hope that never happens to me. Consequently, the exact thing and the exact order that happened to her in her birth story is how Jalen was born as well. So I knew enough that when I had my second child, my daughter, that I was not going to listen to anyone's birth story. I was like, nope, hold it for yourself, because I don't want to be cursed on whatever else you have going on. I've also been privileged to be there at the birth of my nephew, my sister's first son, to actually be right there. And her birth, again, 3 totally different birth stories there as well. But that one was just the most magical, of course, because I got to be there. I read a poem just the other day. My friend Katie sent it to me, and I'm going to read it here in a minute. But the second thing that came to mind was birth plans. So I talked about being a first-time mom and having this plan about, oh, it's just going to be great. And, oh, I probably won't need drugs, or I'll be fine. I have really high pain tolerance, how we all get. And what made me think of that is, I wonder how Mary felt in her birth plans, right? This was not her plan. Christine came one time at a Woman of Faith conference, talked about how the angel came to Mary and said, "Woman, you are highly favored. You are so highly favored that your life's about to get really messed up. I'm about to screw up your life." And that's kind of what happened. She was 14. She was unmarried. She could have been stoned. She was engaged. She could have died. She was doing this whole thing. And yet, even though she was scared, she said, not my will, but your will be done. And let it be as you have said. But I wonder if in her 13, 14-year-old mind, she had this plan of the way that she was going to have a baby. And I cannot imagine that in her plan, she thought, I'm going to ride on a donkey when I'm 9 months pregnant. And I'm going to travel, a couple days, maybe a day's worth journey to this other town where my fiance is from. Not me. He's not my husband. He can't marry me yet because I'm knocked up with God's baby. And I'm going to, that sounds like a really comfortable, good birth plan for me. That seems like that would be comfortable. It's not. 9 months pregnant. I mean, there's things, hopefully there's only women that are going to watch this, but there's things that happen. Things are placed, things have moved, things are jamming into places where they shouldn't be. I remember after I got pregnant with my daughter, my body naturally said, oh, hey, we've done this before, so let me get ahead of you. And all my insides came up right underneath my boobs. And so like my stomach and everything. And so there was just a big empty space for the baby to grow, which is great, but it was premature and I got really fat at like 2 and 3 months pregnant. So I looked like already very far along, which is natural, apparently. But I can't imagine that Mary had any of that in her plan. And I don't imagine either that she felt like having a baby in a barn. I mean, we have a barn in our backyard. It was a goat shed while we had goats. And one of our goats did have a baby in the barn, but she's a goat. And so it's cool. Like she could have had it out in the grass, but we built her a little shed, little barn. And so that was fine. But I can't imagine Mary at 14 years old or 13, whatever, her age was around that time, that she thought that, hey, I'm gonna have a baby in some hay. That sounds like fun. Or the other thing I love to hear is when people tell the Christmas story and how just, oh, the baby came and he was born in a manger and it was beautiful. I don't know about you, but I haven't been very many places where births are beautiful. My husband's a paramedic, and one of his biggest fears is having to deliver somebody's baby in the back of an ambulance. Consequently, his sister delivered her baby in the back of an ambulance. Another story. But he's had to attend many live births in his training. To become paramedic and EMT, you have to see a baby be born. And he's like, it's the grossest thing ever. Now, he was there for the birth of our daughter, and he cut the cord, and he was like right there in the mess. And he thought that was beautiful. But like he said, when babies come out, it's just, ugh, like, what is that? It's like a little gremlin or something. Like, you got to catch it because it pops. So I can't imagine that as Luke tells the story, I've been reading through Luke this past month, as Luke tells the story, even as a physician, he's thinking, I could tell the really gruesome, disgusting part, but I'm getting this story secondhand, and I'm getting it from Mary. And if you're a mom and you've had kids, you know that as soon as that baby comes out, all the pain, all the gross, all the grotesque and whatever just disappear from your head. You don't remember that. Otherwise, you wouldn't want to have any more children. Everybody knows that. That you forget. The nostalgia kicks in, and it's a nice suppressant drug to be like, you know what, we should do this again and again and again. And so maybe Mary's retelling the story, and she's just telling it as it's beautiful. And Luke is a historian and physician, and he's just like, I'm just gonna write what she said. I'm gonna leave out all the gross, disgusting parts that I know about since I'm a doctor, and we'll just leave it at that. But I can't help but think that her birth plan went awry, like most of ours do. So I have to read you this poem that was sent to me over the last week. The lady that wrote it, her name is Caitlin Hardy Shetler. I'll just go ahead and read it now. If you're a mom, you'll relate to this. Sometimes I wonder if Mary breastfed Jesus, if she cried out when he bit her, or if she sobbed when he would not latch. And sometimes I wonder if this is all too vulgar to ask in a church full of men without milk stains on their shirts or coconut oil on their breasts, preaching from pulpits off limits to the Mother of God. But then I think of feeding Jesus, birthing Jesus, the expulsion of blood, the smell of sweat, the salt of a mother's tears, onto the soft head of the salt of the earth, feeling lonely and tired, hungry, annoyed, overwhelmed, loving. And I think of the vulgarity of birth is not honestly preached by men who carry power but not burden, who carry privilege but not labor, who carry authority but not submission. Then it should not be preached at all. Because the real scandal of the birth of God lies in the cracked nipples of a 14-year-old and not in the sermons of ministers who say women are too delicate to lead. It absolutely touched me at such a perfect moment. I don't know this woman. It was sent to me from a friend who must have found it online, but it relates so hard, right? To the truth of the birth of Jesus. Like we can use nostalgia to just paint a pretty picture, and we forget sometimes our own birth stories and the actual pain and awfulness that some things did occur in those moments of giving birth. But if we're not preaching it honestly, and if it's too offensive and we're leaving things out, we're not really getting to the good core of the beautiful story that is the Christmas story. We're so quick to tell the story of Jesus on the cross and how gruesome and awful and blood, sweat, tears, and all of it. Just, we're ready to tell that, but we're not ready to tell the beautiful and honest and raw story of the birth of Jesus. So, I hope that touches you in some way. I hope her poem just radiates through you and that you just hear that and it soaks in and you can just take a deep breath as a woman, as a mother, even if you're not a mother, if you know a mother, well, you have a mother. I mean, ask her. I pray that it just touches you in the deepest spot that you just need. Maybe this Christmas something was missing, and maybe this is what fills it. So there it is, the Christmas story told by a woman in all of its rawness and vulgarity and grotesqueness. It's not a word, but we'll go with it. And I just pray that you are able to take that, let it soak in, and really be able to see the Christmas story from that perspective. Hope y'all be well. Merry Christmas.